Welcome to Cybersoul, the podcast where we dive deep into the digital chaos, explore the messy truths behind cybersecurity, and ask the questions no one else seems to be asking. I'm your host, Keelin Conant, and around here, we don't pretend to have all the answers. What we do have is curiosity, bold conversations, and a mission to understand how we stay secure and human in a world that feels increasingly hacked, digitally and emotionally. Each week, we sit down with the people building, breaking, defending, and redefining the future. Whether it's quantum computing, ransomware, disinformation, or the people behind the breach, we're going there. So buckle up. It's time to dig beneath the firewalls and into the soul of cyber. Hey there, welcome to Cybersoul, real talk for a hacked up world. I'm your host, Keelin Conant. Today we're diving into two big questions that get to the heart of this show. Number one, why is basic cybersecurity such a challenge? And number two, why are the bad guys, the threat actors, getting ahead of us? And is it too late to solve it? To help us dig into all of this, I'm joined by the true OG in cybersecurity, Dr. Stahl, who is a mathematician, a teacher, a systems thinker, and a mission-driven leader who has been working to secure everything from top-secret government systems to under-resourced community nonprofits. He is the founder of Secure the Village, a nonprofit aiming to turn everyday people into cyber guardians and make Los Angeles and Southern California the most cyber-safe city and area in the U.S. Stan, thank you so much for being here. Let's get into it.
Keelin, thank you so much. It's a real pleasure to be here. Yeah, looking forward to the conversation we're about to have.
Me too. Yeah. So Stan, you've literally been building secure systems since the Cold War, which sounds like kind of a long time ago. What's one moment from those early days that really shifted how you thought about this work?
Yeah. So, and it was very, very early days. As you mentioned, my mathematical background. When I started, I knew a lot of mathematics. I didn't know anything about computer security. It was a brand new field. This is 1980 we're talking about. And what I quickly came to discover, and it's the mathematical piece of this, Keelin, is that total 100% security just in our systems. I'm not talking about, the human side of it, just the computer side of it. We can't get there. The mathematics doesn't support it. There's always going to be weaknesses and holes and challenges and yada, yada, yada. And you add, and now jump ahead 40 years, you get to where you get all the mistakes of the people as well, in addition to the weaknesses in the underlying technology. And now we got a problem.
Really, without your wisdom, I mean, it goes to the mathematical problem, which I had not thought about, right?
Yeah.
Because I do spend my evenings kind of laying awake being like, how do we get ahead of this?
Yeah.
And if we're tackling this from just trying to slap more technology on it, we haven't even gotten to the human part yet, which we will get to. But we're not necessarily diving into the basics of the mathematic equation, right?
Yeah. 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 No,
Yeah.
that's exactly true. And it speaks to the challenge we face because so much of what we're doing right now is technology, it's technology driven. Let's, get better anti-malware solutions and let's make our firewalls stronger and all of those kinds of things. And it's not that they're not necessary, it's just they're not sufficient. And that's that gap that AI is going to help us close a little bit of it. That's great, but then AI is also making it easier for the bad guys. So it's spy versus spy kind of
Right.
stuff. Ultimately, it's up to us working together. Not to get it 100%. It's never going to be 100%. I mean, you look at grocery stores, department stores, suffer shrinkage. People walking out the door without paying, and you know that a business works to keep it to an acceptable level. Like zero would be best, but it's not cost effective to do the things to get it to zero. It's the same with computer security. We want to manage it. We want to get it to where what we're doing is reasonable, not perfect.
Right. So with that in mind, because there's zero trust, just
Yeah.
for people who are out there maybe don't understand what that means. Can you expand on that just a little bit, and then I'll circle back to my
Yeah.
next question. So the zero trust piece of it, is really, kind of shutting everything out and dripping things that we decide, clicking boxes, letting specific emails
Yeah.
come in, right? Which is great as a concept. But when we get down to actually the human input and the sweat equity that's needed for that, and just the time it is to filter everything, it's not really necessarily as easy as it could maybe be sold as,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, what you say is true. And actually, the first project I worked on during my transition, went to work for a company called MITRE, very big in the tech industry, of course. So they're leaders, government work and all. And it was actually on something that very reminiscent of today's zero trust. Just illustrate the challenge. Several years ago, our company got hired to see if we could penetrate a management information system for a lot of sensitive uh, user information, protected personal information of people, names, social security numbers, that sort of thing. And we broke in not by going through the front end of the website. We went in through the back. We got access into the company through a phishing attack. Now we're in the company. We got access to the database. And when we came into the database, because we were already now in the application itself,
Yep.
the database program assumed that we had already been authenticated in the front end. We showed up, therefore we must have had a user ID and password. Well, we didn't. And the place of the error was the normal thing, you enter your user ID and password, and now you get transferred into the back end. The back end did not authenticate. The back end assumed the trustworthiness of what it was being given.
Right.
That's not zero trust. Zero trust, it would have checked again. Not necessarily with user ID and passwords, but it would have had a mechanisms built in. Has this guy been through the authentication loops? It's a measure of security that's incredibly valuable to build this in. It's hard. It's more costly. Um, but we need to go there. At the same time, it's not a panacea. Again, it's just one more technical thing we got to do. But if I can hack your email and I can now become you and I get your credentials, game over.
Game over. Yep. Yep. So just to zoom out just a little bit, where do you think we as technologists have taken a wrong turn? And do you think it's too late to adjust?
Yeah.
Things like layering on, different pieces of technology and not thinking about, the full
Yeah.
impact.
Yeah. Good question. I don't know that we went wrong. I don't know that it's a wrong turn as much as if you look at what the big companies are doing. I mean, I'm told that some of the big banks are spending, like 6 billion a year on cybersecurity. It's a lot of money. You've got time, you've got people, you've got assets, and so on. And pushing the technology as far as you can in that direction makes sense. It's not, again, it's necessary but not sufficient. I think what we've not yet begun to pay attention to, not that we've done anything wrong, we've got, this, we've just neglected to do that. And the thing we've neglected to do is pay attention to what is half our economy, which are the small businesses out there, the nonprofits out there. I mean, half of our GDP comes out of companies with under 1,000 employees, more or less, that kind of thing. Uh, Billions a year are lost to people on on romance scams and what's called pig butchering and now sextortion. I mean, it's people are committing suicide because of these kinds of things. What we now have to do is begin paying attention to those aspects of cybersecurity. The old model, which works for big companies, your Bank of America, it's on you. You figure it out. You got the money. You got the resources, yada, yada, yada. You're a little company. Your clients, secure the villages, community. Doesn't work for us. We need a different way of looking at this whole problem. And that's what, I think where we in Secure the Village are taking taking that direction.
Yeah. Yeah. So, on that topic brings me to my next question. So,
Hmm.
tell us about Secure the Village. What sparked it? What
Yeah,
does it mean to become a cyber guardian? How do
yeah,
we sign up?
yeah. All of those things. Secure the Village actually goes back to an idea that several of us had, God, what is now a dozen years ago or so. Back it up after my aerospace days, working big government stuff and top secret classification, yada, yada, yada. I started working for smaller businesses. It better suited my soul, if you will. And at the same time, continued to do cybersecurity work, started a cybersecurity company. This was in 2002. Uh, Kimberly Pease and I uh, launched this, little did we know, a consulting firm. We, wanted to help small businesses with their cybersecurity challenges. At the same time, I got more involved, or involved again, better description, with the LA chapter of the Information Systems Security Association. Great group focused on the cybersecurity professionals. And a disconnect surfaced over the first few years of that all the good work that ISSA, the LA chapter, we were doing, wasn't getting out into the community to helping small businesses, the ones that Kim and I were working
Okay.
with. We were through ISSA working as well with several banks and management consultants and cyber attorneys that weren't ISSA people. They weren't security professionals, but they had this really deep interest in serving the community. And so we began to work cross-functionally, cross-culturally, if you will, with ISSA until finally, back about 2015, it just became clear we needed a separate organization to focus on the smaller businesses and all. That's when I left. I started Secure the Village. I think it dates 2014, 2015, with that specific objective. Let's figure out how to help the little guy, the smaller business, the families, individuals, nonprofits that are getting hurt.
And what have been some of the results of that, of
Yeah.
Secure the Village?
First, very, very well received. In some sense, when we started, we didn't know what we were going to do. Like what do you want to be when you grow up, that kind of thing. But we could see just we had regular ongoing meetings. A lot of it was in financial services, cybersecurity. Again, a little story goes back to like 2005, 2006. I got introduced to the LA FBI folks uh, through a colleague who was retired FBI. We met with them, and one of the stories they told us was how they had gone to the banks. Now, this is 20 years ago, and said, "Look, we know there's all this cybercrime you guys are getting hit with. Let us help." And 201, every one of these bankers sat in their hands and said, "Problem? No, we don't have no problems. Everything's fine." Fast forward 7 or 8 years, I'm now meeting monthly with financial services people, CIOs, chief information security officers, chief risk officers, and so on. And we're meeting every month talking about cybersecurity. And one day they say to me, any chance we could get law enforcement to get involved? We could really use their expertise. And it was like, whoa, talk about a win. Now, it took a lot of years, but the banks came to us and said, can you help us get law enforcement? When earlier banks didn't want to hear from law enforcement. I mean, what a win that was. Fast forward 10 years. We're working on this
Mm.
slowly. We don't have budget. I mean, we're just grassroots. Center for Internet Security, their Alan Paller Laureate program, gave us a grant. Gave us a grant, wow, to help put together a program for small businesses and MSPs. That now is running fabulous. You guys, Alvac is a sponsor, right? I mean, that's a piece of it. We have an MSP peer
Yep.
group. We have our reasonable cybersecurity lab for smaller businesses. I mean, we have gone from, yeah, we'll meet once a month with, as we can, to now we've got real honest to God programs that are out there that are helping these small businesses and nonprofits. So yeah, a lot of progress.
Yeah, this really hits because this goes to the human piece of it, right? So
Yes.
when the humans can break it down and be involved, I think that the systems will follow. So creating culture
Yes.
around the cybersecurity posturing and community is so
Yeah.
big, and that's really where, I'm using CyberSoul as kind of just an exploratory platform to show that we can make tech human again, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And really drive it through communities like what you've built. So that's amazing.
Hmm.
I love hearing all of that. Okay, so two big ones.
Yeah.
What would it take to secure practices to become the default? And what would it take for MSPs? If you don't know what an MSP is, listeners, it's a managed service provider, which
Yeah.
is an outsourced IT group.
Right.
What would it take for these MSPs to grow with integrity without just slinging tools and dashboards
Yeah.
at it?
Yeah. 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 That's where we get right into culture, Keelan. Right into culture. And also using culture, using what do we have? 500,000 years of culture development as a species? Somewhere there, 300,000 years. How do we talk to each other? How do we share information? Um, and part of that, bringing it back right to cybersecurity, part of that's changing the conversation. When you're a big company and you're spending billions on cybersecurity and you've got all this insurance and all of that, it's reasonable to talk about risk. I mean, it's well defined. You can get your arms around it. If you're a small business, risk is some abstract concept. You don't, it doesn't connect with your business.
Every day's a risk in a small business,
Every,
right?
but
Like every single day is risk.
a risk of what? And the answer to the of what begins to frame the question, what would it take? The risk is the risk of disruption. You're a small business. We just talked to a nonprofit the other day that had a phishing attack. It succeeded. Bad guys got into the system. Fortunately, they found it and they were able to block it before it got really bad. But even having found it, they had every employee had to change their passwords. 50 of their people who work remotely had to bring their laptops into the office so that they could be reconfigured, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Net. This disruption, not sleeping at night, staying up all night, blocking the problem. There are people not being able to be productive work because they had to take their computers in. That disruption, they estimate, cost $150,000. And it never got to the end game of the attack, the ransomware. God knows what that would have cost. Framing the discussion. So it's about disruption and the impact of disruption now begins to connect to people the way we humans have connected to each other for those 300,000 years. It's emotional. We connect, we look at each other in the eye and we connect emotionally with each other. What matters to you matters to me. It's not some abstract, oh, they're going to fish you and whatever. No, there's trauma here, Keelan. There's sadly there are suicides,
Yeah.
you know, here. It's making that connection that we
Yeah,
begin
and
to, yeah.
yeah, because I think like on the personal level, when there is a an incident, some sort of ransomware event or hack, I've read a lot of stories about teenagers who are on Instagram and they've been sextorted.
Hmm.
Who are they going to tell? There's
Yeah.
like such a level of embarrassment already as being a teenager. There and
Yeah.
and maybe they fall for it and they're easy target. But I've met very smart people, heads of companies who've fallen for these scams. So
Hmm.
it's not. I don't think it's like you're not smart and you fell for this. It's a social engineering, it's a
Yeah.
psychological warfare.
That's
And I
right.
think when we can really not it's not just about the trauma, but being open and vulnerable about what we're experiencing, I think is really one of the keys to this
Yeah.
entire
Yeah.
fortification. if you will.
Yeah, no, there's so
Yeah.
much truth and
Yeah.
wisdom, Keelan, in what you just said from two different directions. Uh, on the one side, the people who are doing this, these scammers, they're professionals or they're managed by professionals. I mean, there's kind of two groups, if you will. One group are just they're business folks. They buy exploits of how do we break into systems and they, break into systems using those exploits. It's, scam as a service, if you will. You pay for email addresses and for exploits and so on. So they're really pros. They know their business. They put more time and energy into it than our small businesses have to, protect themselves. That's the one side of it. The other side of it is modern enslavement. And this people don't yet know about sufficiently. There are thousands of people enslaved in Southeast Asian countries, Myanmar being one of them, where they are forced to spend their days scamming people, largely Americans and Brits and Europeans and Australians and so on, right? They're beaten if they aren't successful. If they protest, some have been killed. We know this. And they're also very well trained. Their enslavers become really expert at social engineering and they teach those skills to their enslaved people. So that's what we're up against, those two kinds of groups. We're not prepared.
Yeah, we're not, because I've always known about the business ones, and I didn't even think about the slavery concept of
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
And I think it's still this very sort of idea of, oh, there's a kid in a basement trying to hack me. Well, no, this is a very sophisticated system
Mm-hmm.
that is right here, and there's a lot of human sweat equity being put into
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
So
that's a
with
good
all of
point.
that said, what what's the end game?
Yeah.
Go
Well,
ahead.
let's look at the end game just from the side of the one side, this extortion issue and other cyber crimes against children. Part of the answer, the end game to that, is for parents being more understanding of the challenges their children have and having heart-to-heart talks with their children about the dangers of cybersecurity. We're probably a week or 2 weeks away from having our guide for parents how to talk to your children,
Hmm.
what these risks are. I mean, so
Right.
that's one piece of it. Also, on the personal side, we have a guide, a handbook, how hackable are you guide, we call it. So part of it is getting this out into the hands of families so they know. I mean, I'm a big believer that if people know what's really going on, and they connect to that, it's not just oh, I understand it here, but it's connected into the emotional centers of the brain. And we give
Right.
people the ability to formulate a discipline because there's not a one and done. You can't talk to your kids once and now, okay, everything's fine. No, it's got to
Right.
be regular.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's a
Reinforcement.
discipline here.
Hmm.
Help families and individuals and correspondingly the businesses because we have programs there as well. But it's helping to instill that discipline of cybersecurity so that it's always in your consciousness. Just like if you're in a bad part of town, you kind of pay attention to what's going on around you. You know, you look in your rearview mirror. Is the car behind me getting too close? Like I've got to be careful not to get rear-ended. Maybe this yellow light I'll go through because I can see if I don't go through it, I'm going to get rear-ended. I mean, that's situational awareness. That's part of the discipline that we have. But first and foremost, people have to care. If they don't care, nothing happens.
Yeah, it's really, we can't put our heads in the sand. We can't pretend it's not happening. And I 2 points that I want to, kind of echo in what you said is cyber hygiene is very important, reinforcing it.
Hmm.
And people who work in companies, we're very lucky. Our companies are spending lots of money on teaching us cybersecurity.
Hmm.
I think it's up to us to be able to share that with the more vintage people in our lives who
Right.
maybe don't know what, like, there's things that intuitive to me that are not intuitive to my mother-in-law, are not
Hmm.
intuitive necessarily to, a 5 or 6 year old, right? But if we all can have community and share, I think that's important. And then also, when you were using the analogy of being in a bad part of town, I know my spidey senses, kind of are very activated when
Yeah.
I feel like I'm in danger. And I tell people a lot when, if it feels off, it is. If
Hmm.
there's an email that's too good to be true, or even if you just feel it, like, trust your intuition.
Yeah.
Every single heartbeat out there has that internal guidance system. And instead of numbing it out, we should be really leaning into it
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
trusting it more. So
Yeah.
yeah, those are great insights.
And what you just
Yeah.
said is so important. That instinct that we have, because when you look at a phishing email, it's an urgent request to do something. Urgent, 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 urgent. It's like flashing a neon sign. And part of what we have to do, part of what we have to learn how to do, is slow down enough so that we can let our intuition surface. See, because immediately the fear factor, oh my God, if I don't do this, something bad's going to happen, whatever. Take a deep breath, diaphragmatic breathing, just as an example. You know, take 10 seconds. Take a big deep breath into your lungs, hold it there, let it out. Do it a few more times. That relaxes you, that calms you down. Now you can look at this email from an intellectual perspective. Let me see. Is it asking me to do something that I shouldn't? Is it from somebody I know? Or if it is from somebody I know, is it really from them? Might I be a fake? Are they asking me to click a link, open an attachment? Why? But you got to slow down enough to where you can now begin to let yourself explore those questions.
Yeah, I love the breathing.
Yeah.
Very yummy.
Yeah.
And I used to have a coaching company, and in that coaching company, one of my phrases I would tell my clients is slow down to speed up.
Yeah. That's right.
You just take that breath, and I
That's right.
promise you,
Yeah.
things will become clearer. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna wrap up here in a minute, but before I let you go, let's do some rapid fire questions. Are you
Yeah.
ready? Okay. One thing every small organization should do this week.
So, first off, appoint somebody to be your cybersecurity leader responsible for managing cybersecurity in your organization. Make sure that person both has accountability and authority, and task them. You got 30 days. I want to see a plan to achieve
Mhm.
reasonable security for our company. Do it today.
Yep. Tap somebody on your
Yeah.
team, and if you're the CEO, I invite you not to have it not be you, because you already have a lot of responsibility.
Yeah.
Trust somebody on your team or outsource it. There's plenty of experts out there. I love that. That's
Yep.
awesome. And then changing gears totally off of
Right.
cybersecurity. What's a non-cyber book you're loving right now?
What's a non-cyber book?
Book.
Yes. So right now I'm reading two books. Uh, One very obscure, History of Western Philosophy by Bertrand Russell. I first read it like
Nice.
60 years ago. I'm rereading it now. It's a blast. Just so. I mean, Russell was brilliant. What can I say? The other, very much more practical, How to Give a TED Talk. How to talk to
Nice.
people in ways that connect that same way. Because it's that same emotional thing we've been talking about this entire 45 minutes or however long it's been. Yeah. So those are my two favorite books right now.
I love that.
Yeah.
I feel that history has so much to tell us.
Yeah. Oh
Going
yeah.
back to history and understanding how we got to where we are now, and what did we miss? Can we pick up things that
Yeah.
maybe we've forgotten about or retired, or what can we learn from history? So I love that. And
That's
I
it.
can't wait to see your TED
Yeah.
Talk.
Oh yeah. The connections are there.
uh,
They go deep. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, a cyber moment that made you laugh.
So, good question. One of the things we do here at Secure the Village, every week we publish our cybersecurity news of the week, 15 stories or so. What's going on in the world? Some general, some focused around businesses, some focused on individuals and families. Every one of those starts with a cartoon, a cyber related cartoon. one of the ones we did a couple of weeks ago, woman sitting at her computer at her desk, typing away, a dog and a cat down on the floor, looking at each other. One says to the other, I think we're named after computer passwords. Yeah,
Oh my gosh, that's really cute. I love that.
there you have it.
Yep.
Yeah,
What came first, right? The password or the animal?
that's right.
Love it.
Yeah,
Okay. So, and finally, where can people find you and get involved with
yeah.
Secure the Village?
So our website is securethevillage.org. We are, as I don't know if we've mentioned it or not, we're a 501c3 nonprofit, very, very specifically. Um, And so you can go to our website, look at our programs, connect to me through that. Any information you want, just info@securethevillage.org, and that'll get to me ultimately. Yeah,
Awesome.
yeah. Please
Awesome.
do.
Yes, please reach out to Stan. There's so many takeaways, there's so much information, lots of free resources that you can
No,
download. I mean, I
yeah.
have a great time in there, taking from there. It's very, very supportive. So Stan, thank you for being here.
Uh,
Thank you for all the work you've done. I feel a lot smarter and calmer and more
good.
hopeful for than when we started. I think you answered some of my questions that I've been kind of pondering on. It's the mathematical question,
Hmm.
and my assumption that we need to bring more humanity into the technology.
Yeah.
You've helped agree with my thesis there, and just thank you for the work that you're doing. I mean, the first time I met you, I felt like we were kindred spirits. So thank you so much for
Oh,
that. And then to our listeners, if this conversation sparks something, please share it. Sharing is caring. We're all about community. Send it to a nonprofit leader, a local business owner, your IT friend who might be secretly carrying way too much. Stan and I see it every day. We see the effects, the trauma of a cyber attack, and we're doing everything we can to nip it in the bud, but it takes community, it takes you, the listener, to also support with this
mhm.
conversation. So please do that. And again, you can learn more about Stan at securethevillage.org. And for now, I'll catch you all on the next frequency. Thank you so much. Bye for now.